Hi everyone, Georgia Rambling Man here. Hope everyone's doing well. Been watching a lot of videos lately. A lot of you guys have been uploading videos, and I really enjoy watching them. One that I really liked recently from not from Harley Trek, but from NC Stoney, was he's kind of reviewing his new Heritage Softail that he bought maybe a year or so ago. And I really enjoy the videos from you guys and gals on your motorcycle, what you like, what you don't like about it. I think it's helpful not only to fellow motovloggers, just to kind of see what the various opinions are, but it's also good for folks like me, really, who are in the market for something new in the near future, to give us some ideas. So I liked what NC Stoney had to say about his Heritage, and so I thought I would just do a little one like that on my Suzuki C50T Boulevard that I'm riding right now. I've had it for about 4 years, and I obviously have a lot of likes and dislikes about it. Of course, a lot of the dislikes are the reason I'm looking to move up. But let me just go over some of the likes that I have, and if there's folks out there on the internet that are maybe considering this bike, I hope this helps you. First of all, the thing I liked most about it was the price. I think you can find a lot of used bikes of this type out on the market, and it's a great bike if you're just getting into motorcycling or getting back into motorcycling like I was, and you want the cruiser touring type bike, but you're not really ready for maybe the 800 or 900 pound Harley or Indian just yet. You want a bike that's a little more maneuverable, lighter, easier to handle, maybe a little less intimidating. This is a great bike. It's got a great classic styling to it. It's got a nice windshield, a clear windshield. It has soft leather bags that are, keep their shape, open and close very easily. It's got an 800cc liquid-cooled engine, which is a very good engine. It's what I would consider mid-size. It's in the class of the 900cc Kawasaki or the 750cc Honda mid-size cruisers. But it's a great engine. It just purrs along. I have not had one problem with the engine on this motorcycle. And I bought my motorcycle as a 2005. I bought it in 2013, so it was already 8 years old when I bought it. Only had 7,000 miles on it, so the guy who had it obviously did not ride it very much. And that concerned me a little bit, that it was kind of a... Hold on there, fella. Thank you. It was kind of just garaged and maybe not in great shape, but it turned out to be in great shape. I had a mechanic look it over. So I have nothing but good things to say about the engine. As far as power goes, it's got pretty good power. It's a 5-speed transmission. Most of the bigger bikes have 6 speeds, where the 6th gear is an overdrive gear. I guess you would say the 5th gear on this bike is an overdrive gear. But this bike will cruise down the expressway out on the open road at 70 or 80 miles an hour all day long. Now I will say this, once you get above 70 or 80, and I don't have a tachometer on it, but it's starting to wind out a little bit. You're realizing you're at the top of the capabilities of the engine when you're going that fast. And I've never really tried to open it up and see just how fast it would go. I'm a little afraid to do that. But it'll run there. I mean, if you're going 75 or 80 miles an hour and you want to pass somebody, you're not going to have all that torque available to you. That's right. It's probably available to you in 5th or 6th gear on a 103 or 107 cubic inch engine that the Harleys or Indians have, but nevertheless, it runs pretty well, so I like that. It gets good fuel mileage. It's cheap to insure, and overall, those are my likes on the motorcycle. I've really enjoyed having it. It's very comfortable. Now, I have done some modifications to it to improve the comfort. Probably the best thing that I did was I took off the stock seat, which was okay. but you know, after a couple of hours, it was, to be honest with you, it was awful. So I sprung for the money and I bought a Mustang seat and passenger pillion or seat. Great investment. I'm really sold on the comfort of these Mustang seats. I know some of the more expensive Harleys and Indians probably have really nice, comfortable stock seats. And I've actually sat on the Heritage Softail that NC Stoney has, and it seems to be really comfortable. But the Mustang seat that I have on this Suzuki is just, it was a great purchase. I put some highway bars on it. Didn't come with highway bars. I put the driving lights on it, as you can see. Put a luggage rack on it. Already had a passenger backrest. Put some new grips on it. I tried to put some heated grips on it last winter because I was riding a good bit in the winter, and I tried 2 different brands that said they worked with this model, and it turns out they didn't. The problem was routing the wires through the handlebars just wouldn't work. They would have had to cut the handlebars, and you know, the mechanic at the shop said that's probably not a good idea. So I've got the Kuryakin grips on it, really nice grips. And those are my likes on this bike. It's well engineered. It's got good quality. You know, just keep the fluids changed. It's a direct drive, shaft drive. There's no belt or no chain. I know the bigger cruisers normally have the belt drive now. I guess the sport bikes have the chains. But just a very smooth motorcycle. And maybe I'll have it for sale here in the near future. If anybody's watching, they want to get in contact with me, maybe we can make a deal. Okay, now for some of the dislikes. Again, this is a 2005 model, and some of the newer versions of this motorcycle with Suzuki, they've corrected that. The bike that I have has no fuel gauge on it, so I have to use one of the trip odometers as my de facto fuel gauge. Every time I fill up, I just reset the trip meter, and I can get about 135, 40 miles. I've never really tried to squeeze any more out of that. The tank is a good sized tank, but not huge. And I just use the trip odometer as a gas gauge. Right now it's reading 102, and you know, so I'm knowing in the near future I'm going to stop and get gas. So I've gotten used to it, but it would be nice to have a fuel gauge. Second of all, and I mentioned this in my walk-around video, the brakes are not the best. It's just a single disc in the front. It's a drum brake in the rear. And it really worries me sometimes, especially if I'm moving along at a good clip and I have to make a quick stop. And I've had to make a few of those, and I've locked up the back wheel a couple times, and I know people will say, well, you're not using enough front brake. You gotta use both brakes. And I went to the course, I learned how to do it, and I tried to, but you know, I just contend with you, the brakes are not the best on this, and that is really one feature I'm really looking forward to on a new bike is dual discs up front, a disc in the back, and anti-lock system on the brakes. You know, a lot of bikers I know say, oh, I don't want any lock, I don't want to pay for it. You know, you should know how to ride a motorcycle and use the brakes. And I agree with that. But you know, technology advances. They don't even make cars anymore, I don't think, without anti-lock brakes. And I think that's a great technological advance in the motorcycling industry. And I know, you know, the newer innovations out there and the new engineering, they've got even more safety features coming with stability control and various other things. But I want the anti-lock brakes. I think that's a good extra safety factor to have. And if you get in a panic situation, you just clamp down on the front and rear brake, and especially these newer bikes that have the link brakes, you know, just let technology take over. Especially if you're in a situation where the road's a little wet or slippery, I think it's just something it would be great to have. A few convenience things that I don't have on this bike that I would like to have on my next one. And so these really aren't dislikes of this bike. This bike is just a cheaper model, doesn't have it. Doesn't have cruise control. I want that. Obviously it doesn't have the fairing, so there's no radio, you don't have the gauges, the tachometer, those kind of things. So I'd like to have those. And the saddlebags are pretty good. They're not huge. They actually keep their shape fairly well. I'm pretty impressed with that. but they're not lockable, number one. So I've got a couple of, I went to Suzuki's website, bought a couple of Suzuki saddlebag liners, little satchels that fit in your bag to zip up, and if I'm ever going someplace and I have anything in my bag I don't want to have stolen, I just open my bag and pull out the bag and take it with me. I try not to leave too much just loose things in the saddlebags. Another thing about the saddlebags is they are not waterproof, and I have found that out a couple of times when I've been out riding in the rain. Is the water will get in there, and so I keep everything in these saddlebag liners. And I also, if I've got something really critical I don't want to get wet, I just wrap it up in a plastic bag and then put it in the liner, and that works fine. So those are my basic dislikes, and I guess another thing, and it's not really a criticism of the motorcycle, but it is the power. It's got plenty of low-end torque, and getting off the start, you can get up to speed pretty quick. But like I said earlier, once you get up to around 70 miles an hour, there's not a lot more pulling to be had. And it is somewhat smaller. It's very comfortable. It's a very upright seating position. And for riding on these country roads like I'm doing today, it's very comfortable. I haven't really taken like a week-long trip and been in the saddle, 8 hours a day, so I don't know how that'll be. In fact, this summer, when I go to the Hootenanny up in North Carolina, that'll probably be my longest one-day trip. It's about 140 miles from my house up to Asheville. It's about the same distance to Robbinsville. I've made a couple of round trips on this thing to my parents' house in Rome, Georgia, which is about a 75-mile one-way trip. And then I've been down to Macon and back a couple of times, which is about a 100-mile one-way. So I've been on it some, but I think the bigger bike would provide more comfort, and I'm looking for that. But just to sum things up, I highly recommend it if you're out there looking for a motorcycle. You're a guy, you're a girl that's kind of new to motorcycling, not really into the sport bikes, want a cruiser type motorcycle, you're just learning or you're just getting back on it after being off for several years, consider the Suzuki C50T Boulevard. It's a very comfortable, reliable motorcycle. You can get them used probably for $3,000 or $4,000 all day long, and if you want a new one, I think they're about $9,000. So very good value, well engineered, comfortable, light, maneuverable, great to learn on. I've had it for 4 years now, and I really enjoy it. Now, one of the things I forgot to mention, I did mention this on my walk around video, the stock exhaust is fairly nice, it's fairly quiet, but I think that's pretty much the case on all motorcycles. So I wanted some more rich, deeper exhaust note on this. Did a good bit of research, went out and bought the Cobra /cut pipes for this bike. Got the fuel tuner that went with it. Didn't mess around with the air cleaner or anything. Just ran had the fuel tuner, retuned the bike for the pipes. I'm sure it was a stock program. I had them done at the local Suzuki dealer, and they sound great. I mean, they're just the sound that I like for pipes on a bike. Not too loud, but just a really nice sound, and I like it a lot. Don't really notice a lot of performance increase, to be honest with you. But I think they look good, and I think they sound good. So that's about it. I'm looking forward to NC Stoney's next video where he talks about his dislikes on the Heritage Softail, because that's one model I am considering. Although, as my last video I mentioned, that I'm thinking maybe it's, a Harley Davidson or an Indian's not in my immediate future. But you never know. Tomorrow I might wake up and feel completely different. Anyway, I hope everybody's having a great weekend. Spring is coming. Looking forward to the hootenanny. This is Georgia Rambling Man. Everybody ride safe.